All right, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for some wisdom? Because it is Wednesday, and you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen. Wisdom of the Ages, reading from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Wisdom of the Ages, subtitled 60 Days to Enlightenment. But we know that's a wonderful idea as we are now almost 9 months into the process of trying to learn and apply this wisdom. And you can see how close we are getting, ladies and gentlemen, to finishing up, and then we'll have to find more wisdom to go into and continue to study in the future. And we'll bring up our own ideas and thoughts. But today we're talking about self-image, ladies and gentlemen. And it's coming to us not only from Dr. Wayne Dyer, but from George Bernard Shaw. And so hope you got yourself a nice beverage or, whatever makes you comfortable, a comfy chair, and sit back and let's learn some wisdom of the ages. And shout out to A1. I really appreciate you out there. All right, self-image. George Bernard Shaw writes, actually, he was an Irish dramatist, critic, and social reformer in his life. I used his plays and essays as vehicles for his theories, causes, and some of which were political and economic, a new religion of creative evolution, and vegetarianism, spelling reform. This guy was into all kinds of things, ladies and gentlemen. And so he wrote this about life, it seems, and the idea of self-image. This is the true joy in life, he begins. The being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. The true joy in life, ladies and gentlemen, the being used for a purpose recognized by your own self as a mighty one. The being a force, he continues, of nature, instead of a fervor, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community as long as I live. It is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more that I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It's a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. That's a powerful one, ladies and gentlemen, and I really enjoy it. And so let's dive right into what Dr. Wayne Dyer has to teach us and what wisdom we have to gain from this little reading and this idea around self-image. And so Wayne begins by telling us George Bernard Shaw worked into his 90s as a brilliant dramatist, literary critic, lecturer, music critic, theater critic, and essayist. He was a critic about all kinds of things, or he had a lot to say, but an essayist on every imaginable subject. And I think there's a tip there for longevity. He lived into his 90s back in the halfway through the century of the 1800s to halfway through the 1900s by continuing to be passionate about whatever it is he was interested in. And so he won and refused the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1925. And he is best remembered for his mesmerizing Man and Superman. This one passage particularly that we just read here today, perfectly reflects how George Bernard Shaw, the most significant Irish playwright since the 17th century, lived his life, ladies and gentlemen, and what we can learn and how we can begin to think of a new idea of how we can live our lives, regardless of whether we're 10 or 90. Wayne Dyer continues here by saying, I was 10 years old when Shaw died, and I still remember rereading and reading about his passage. I seem to always have been attracted, he says, to his life philosophy. Here he promotes living as if we are being used for a purpose that we recognize as a mighty one. And I'll add naturally, because he did say naturally. This idea of seeing ourselves as naturally purposeful speaks directly to our self-image. Does anyone aspire to the image he describes as being a perverse, selfish little clod of grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy? Probably not. Yet don't we all see people who fit in this description? People who enjoy life as if their being is a force of nature are doers who are fully alive, have little patience for complainers and whiners, and generally are active every day of their lives. They are not active just to stay busy, but are rejoicing in their life activities. That little half a paragraph there is like the ultimate teaching. Now, I say that a lot, I know, but there are these certain pieces of the descriptions of these kind of wisdoms to where it's like that half a paragraph there, to where people who enjoy life, this is like learn to do this here, write this down, remember this, and ponder on it, meditate on it, contemplate on it, and try to figure out how we can apply this half a paragraph here into our life. People who enjoy life as if their being is a force of nature are doers and who are fully alive. They also have little patience for complainers and whiners, and generally are active every day of their lives. They are not active just to stay busy, but are rejoicing in their life activities. Like it's like a thankfulness for actually being here anyways. That we can be here and do something regardless. And complaining and whining is, you know where we're going, and you can see how this can change the quality of your life if you can begin to adapt and adopt this kind of thinking. Because so many of us at any time in our life can become this grumbling, moaning, or this, complaining. And it's funny, maybe I was thinking about the critic here in the author we're referencing, Bernard George Shaw. And so, but having little patience for complainers and whiners. They are not active just to stay busy, but we are rejoicing in the activities of our life and have no time or interest for petty grievances, ladies and gentlemen. Nor are we preoccupied with this kind of activity ourselves. Shaw asks us to let go of our self-absorption. See, that's a big challenge and a big key. And this goes back to the Tao teachings that we do every Tuesday and sometimes Thursday, which we'll be doing tomorrow, as well as we did yesterday. So be sure to check out both of those videos as well, ladies and gentlemen, because the wisdom ties into these kind of understandings. When you can get to this place to where you see the underlying unity or oneness or connectedness in the duality or separateness that we see as the illusion of the world that we've created with all the labels that we've put on everything. But when we can begin to see that oneness, we can begin to let go of our self-absorption and get involved in the true joy of life, which is to feel that you are being used for a purpose, or that you are existing on purpose without knowing it and not needing to know it. So I think when people get into what is my purpose, they're like trying to need to know it. But you know it already if you flow naturally with those kind of things that you're naturally good at, that naturally serve the community, and all these kind of attributes. In this passage, Wayne Dyer continues, the dynamic and witty philosopher conveys his enormous enthusiasm for life and encourages us to embrace a comparable attitude towards everyone and everything. a comparable, or maybe, yeah, comparable attitude towards everything and everyone. Let go of grumbling, moaning, and passivity by changing how you choose to perceive life in general. And see, that's like the real thing that we're working on here, is changing how and choosing. See, that's the key. Choosing to change how we perceive and then eventually experience through a repetition of this process of changing the perception or changing our thoughts, changing what we look at or changing how we look at what we see, and then what we look at changes. All these kind of things. You've heard me say this before. And so changing how to choose, we perceive life just in general, all aspects. Whew, it's powerful. He asks us, Wayne Dyer continues, to rejoice in life, not for the outcomes and rewards that come our way, but purely and simply for its own sake. And we've said this multiple times as well, being detached from the outcome is one of the key things of becoming a self-actualized individual. And if that is a weird way to describe it, of becoming a much happier and much more peaceful and joyful and content individual, is through becoming detached from outcomes. But if that's confusing, like, what do you mean not be attached to outcomes? What we mean there is not for the outcomes and rewards that come our way, but purely and simply just for the own sake of the experiences of the things that it is we're doing. Usually we're doing things to get outcomes, but we need to do things just to do them for the experience, for its own sake, and try to make that something that is important to us through practicing perceiving life in general in a new way. This is one, I didn't expect this to be such a great teaching here, but I knew the title of self-image would bring something great. Self-image and feeling purpose in life. So if you're getting value, leave me a comment and smash the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Say yes in the comments after you smash the like button. Now, how does one accomplish this? Because it's like this advice from one of the greatest examples of a fully functioning person is to shuck your passivity or throw, like corn, peel off your passive nature and your search for a reason to be happy. Instead, bring a joyful knowing that your life has a natural purpose to everyone you meet and everything you do. And really believing that and getting that. You need to get this, ladies and gentlemen, because this can have a huge impact on the quality of life that we experience. Like I said, whether you're 10 years old or 90 years old, even though I doubt there's many 10-year-olds watching this, that would be fascinating. But to shrug off our passivity and our search for a reason to be happy. So stop searching and going after and striving rather than just arriving where we are now. Instead, bring a joyful knowing that our life has natural purpose to everyone we meet and everything we do. And so once again, how does one accomplish this, Chase? If you're just telling me this, and how does one accomplish this, Wayne and George Bernard Shaw and all the wonderful authors and poets of the wisdom of the ages, including Lao Tzu, the author of the wisdom, the Tao Te Ching, the Great Way, which is another great, collection of ideas on how we can increase the quality of our life through study. Now, my personal way, Wayne says, is to remove myself from the energy fields of those who violate the principles that Shaw is writing about. Powerful suggestion that goes into a different topic of its own. When I begin to hear grievances, complaining, and bitching, he even puts in there, I deliberately, I didn't think he would say bitching. That's incredible. That's bitching, Dr. Wayne Dyer. High five. But he goes, so my personal way to, because how do we accomplish everything we've talked about so far? Changing our general outlook on life and being able to feel a natural purpose for being here. Hopefully I can remember that as the title. But he goes, my personal way is to remove myself from the energy fields of those who violate the principles that Shaw is writing about. So when he begins to hear grievances, complaining and bitching, I deliberately and quietly move out of that space as quickly as possible. I personally, in my own life, I try to remain silent when when it's not right to move out of the space. Don't add to it. That's a real place to start. Just allow it. Remember, that goes to yesterday. You can allow it and observe it and let it go on like a train. And if the train is a long one, sometimes you have to wait, come silently and comfortably at the tracks, because yelling at the train is not going to get it to go by any faster. That's a great metaphor. Hope you got that one, ladies and gentlemen. So complaining, I deliberately, quietly move out of the space as quickly as possible. Generally, he continues, I will do or say nothing that might be interpreted as rejection. I simply refuse to have that kind of energy in my immediate surroundings. I've also found that the less I verbalize, the less I have to complain about. Think about that one. Almost 20 years ago, I decided to stop using these sentences, Wayne says. And this is important to try to adopt and adapt into our own lives, once again, ladies and gentlemen. So almost 20 years ago, you stop using this kind of vocabulary, and in your thoughts and in your words, what you speak out into life, to other people or to yourself, both powerful. Sentences like, I'm tired, I don't feel well, I'm getting a cold. This was a conscious choice, he says, based on my reading of this particular phrase of Shaw's, which I partially included, in some of my earliest writing. By not using these sentences, I was forced to rethink my inner attitudes about fatigue and illness. And I found that just by eliminating the verbal grievances, this is key, ladies and gentlemen. This is magic now that we're talking about manifesting. Like, this is using energy through frequencies and through the subconscious programs that our minds run to create our life. This is using all of those things. And so by not using these sentences, I was forced to rethink, or I would say it almost happened automatically. When you stop using certain thought processes, you automatically replace them with new ones. And so he goes, I was forced to rethink my inner attitudes. So the way you feel, your position, how where you stand on the ideas of fatigue and illness. Because you realize that you don't have to choose those kind of thoughts, and you begin to realize that the less you're choosing those kind of thoughts on purpose, you begin to have a different life experience, because your thoughts are what you have to act on. It drives our behavior, ladies and gentlemen. Like, here's a great example. If you don't know something bad happened, you're not going to think anything about it. Now, I'm not saying that, bad things don't happen because we don't know about them, but I am saying we affect our emotional and physiological makeup by what it is we choose to think about, what it is that we think about, and then we affect the direction of our behavior and actions based on those things as well. Now, bone to knowledge. This is getting good, ladies and gentlemen. We are not yet. If you're getting value, consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, then leave me a comment and let me know what you think so far. So he goes, when I encounter Well, he goes, I found by eliminating the verbal grievances, I generally did not have those ailments in my life, which sounds impossible, but the science is out there all ready to prove it, ladies and gentlemen. Just search Dr. Joe Dispenza and all the wonderful researchers that are doing this kind of research and getting it proven, ladies and gentlemen. When I encounter other people telling me how tired they are or how they feel a cold coming on, I usually respond, don't think tired thoughts or don't think cold thoughts. I often receive a puzzled look, as you can imagine, ladies and gentlemen. Yet the message is conveyed. And I also let them know that I am not going to be seduced into the discussion of their complaints and grievances. And so this is so important. I hope you're really getting this. If you are willing to apply this advice, this one selection of George Bernard Shaw's taken to heart can literally change the state of your mind, and I will add the state of your life, the quality of your life, ladies and gentlemen, and the quality of the lives of those around you. Because as you said earlier, just by naturally existing, we have a purpose through impacting everyone we meet and everything we do. Now, being joyful in knowing that your life has a natural purpose to everyone you meet and everything you do. And so we're talking about now how we're accomplishing this by changing our thoughts and changing our life, changing how we perceive life in general. And so, once again, taken to heart, this can change the state of your mind. At each day, if each day we begin to see ourselves as a mighty one and forego this self-importance and complaints in favor of viewing life. Okay, so get rid of the self-importance and complaints for a switch into the new way of viewing life as a splendid torch that illuminates your life in a magnificent way. The idea of being thoroughly used up, and this thought of you will know what Shaw means by the true joy of life, and giving and trying to get, I don't know, it's the counterpoint came up in my head. It's like, well, what if you're really struggling with life, and all this idea of giving and trying to get the most out of life just seems ridiculous and impossible. I say, I have empathy. I thank you and have appreciation for you even existing to ask that question for yourself, because that means that you could be on the path to finding true greatness in your future. And so I love to think of the idea you can have the worst life ever for 43 years and then have the best life ever. It just starts at 44. It's just a matter of being able, like we've been describing here, to change our general outlook on life by changing the kind of thoughts that we tell ourselves through a type of programming or type of rewiring of our mind by changing the kind of vocabulary, the kind of words and sentences we say to ourselves in our thoughts and to others with our words. And then over time, that will begin to affect what we naturally think about, which will affect our behavior and our emotions. And this is the game, ladies and gentlemen. This is how you change your life. Now, you may feel that this advice for you is fine for a genius or somebody else and doesn't apply to us. But it's like it means that absolutely refusing to act in any way that denies we are a force of nature, that we are here on our own heroic mission and here for a purpose. Any inner thoughts that keep us from knowing and mobilizing this force will be your first thing that you need to identify and then step by step reject. or just let it go by, or remove it. Like, this is the most important thing. When we have any of these thoughts that take us off of this knowing that you know that you have purpose and that you are here on your own heroic mission and that you can find joy in life just by naturally existing yourself. And when we have any thoughts that denies this, we need to instantly mobilize this understanding and this new awareness and begin to reject and stop these negative, self-worth, self-image destroying kind of thoughts. Because this goes back to what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen, is trying to feel a purpose in your life through having an excellent self-image. And I didn't know it was going to be this wonderful. I didn't know these words were going to be on these pages that we would read today, but this can really change somebody's life big time. And so, any inner thoughts that keep us from knowing this purpose in our life, and then we stop them. And this means once we're able to begin stopping them, we know that we are not going to die with our music still in us, that we're going to get it out and we're going to do what we're here to do naturally in our life. And sometimes that just means taking care of your family, or sometimes it's a greater mission of changing the world. So there's this scale. Like, don't think you have to be great and change the world. Like, it literally could mean interacting with one person and changing the future in that way that you never really know about. But anyways, let's continue here to get to the end of this. We've got a little tiny bit left, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're getting value. Now, Bernard Shaw just okay. You may feel that this advice is fine for a genius, but does not apply to you because in many ways you see yourself as a selfish person. This attitude reflects a self-image that you have chosen to adopt. And the essential message here is that you also can choose to change that self-image. You choose it. Remember, self-image derives from the self, from yourself, not from people out here telling you what you should think about yourself, not from your parents, all the years that you grew up, not from your aunt and your whoever the person was in your life that gave you a negative self-image and a negative general outlook on life. This comes from self. So you're choosing it. They just put it into you and you kept choosing it all the time because it was all that you knew and probably became part of your identity. And so this is work, ladies and gentlemen. Self-image derives from the self and is not the responsibility of anyone else. It is purely yours. And so your self-image is your choice, regardless of how much we've continued to believe that that's not the truth for so long. These words, Wayne says, have guided my life since I first read them as a young man. Try these alternatives to being in any way described as fervorish and a selfish little clod. If you want to put them to work for you, so here's where we can practically apply this great wisdom of the ages and from George Bernard Shaw, into our life, ladies and gentlemen, a practical way. I stumbled there. Here's a practical way how we can apply this great wisdom on creating a much better self-image for ourselves. And so, number one, remove from our vocabulary statements about anything that we don't want to manifest into our life. And so this is also why you should get this book for yourself, so you can have it on your shelf. I have it linked below in the description. Just expand the description below the video and click on the link to Wisdom of the Ages by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Because there's these practical bits at the end of every one of these wonderful little chapters. And if you don't even want to read the whole chapter, you can just go to the practical part right at the end. So it's like, all right, self-image. How do we begin to improve our self-image? Well, number one, remove our statements, the vocabulary in our mind and our words about anything that we don't want to manifest into our life. And catch yourself when announcing our ailments, our fatigue, our fears, or and all of these negative things. Catch ourselves and stay silent rather than radiating a negative self-fulfilling prophecy. And then when you begin to do the opposite, ladies and gentlemen, you can radiate a positive self-fulfilling prophecy. Remove yourself, this is number 2 here. Remove yourself physically as subtly as you can from those who persistently insist on burdening you with their grievances and their complaints and their general negative outlook on life. Number 3, put energy into your life by taking on new interests, projects, and generally being consumed with rejoicing in life. That's so powerful. That wasn't all of number 3, but it's like, just to answer the simple question, how can we have a much better self-image in life? It's like, well, put energy into your life by taking on new interests and projects and generally being consumed with rejoicing in life. Discontinue dismal habits that you've adopted with a reflective poor self-image. Eliminating self-denigrating labels or comments, and let others who do this to you know privately that you do not want to be identified this way any longer. Number 4, be a doer rather than a critic, complainer, or explainer. Let who you are speak for you. That one caught me a bit there. And get in the habit of no longer suffering fools gladly. Number 5, ladies and gentlemen, I think this might be most important to creating a much better self-image and finding natural purpose in life. Is like, ignore criticism. My favorite quote, Wayne says, from Albert Einstein, a contemporary of Shaw's, hangs on a poster in my office. Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. You are a great spirit, ladies and gentlemen. Live that way. Boom to knowledge. Boom to self-image. And boom to feeling natural purpose in life. Meditate on that one for 40 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Because that was powerful. That can have a huge impact on somebody's life, and I hope it does, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it does, and I hope you enjoy Dr. Wayne W. Dyer as much as I do, especially The Wisdom of the Ages and The Wisdom of the Tao. But he's got tons of other books. I think he's got like 20 books, so definitely search up Dr. Dyer. He's also got thousands of hours of videos and lectures and talks on, podcasts, Audible, iTunes, wherever, on YouTube, and shoot, probably every platform there is, ladies and gentlemen. So if you've yet to discover yourself some Wayne Dyer and listen to him personally, rather than just from me, but if you get more enjoyment out of listening to me talk about the ideas that, my mentor, Dr. Wayne Dyer, always talks about, and it's whatever you want to choose, ladies and gentlemen. That little plaque there back by the painting there, it says dream, imagine, and believe. Because with these things, we can begin to once again change for the better our own self-image and find natural purpose in life. And so let's see what the T says today, ladies and gentlemen. It says, breathe in peace and breathe out blessings to all. And so that's what we're going to do here at the end, ladies and gentlemen. Blessings to all of you. I love and appreciate everyone, especially those of you who spend time here with me and Dr. Wayne W. Dyer and all the wonderful authors and poets of The Wisdom of the Ages and Lao Tzu, the author of the Tao. And so, remember, ladies and gentlemen, continue to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. Continue to seek to discover the hidden wisdom of the ages that becomes less hidden every day. The great wisdom of the ages that can have a great impact on our lives and the quality of our lives. And continue, ladies and gentlemen, to remember to make happiness the way, what we bring to life, rather than the goal that we're always striving to get to. Like, I'll be happy when I get there, or I'll be happy if. Because when we can begin to make happiness the way, then the goal that we've been striving for becomes irrelevant, because we're already where we want it to be. And then the entire journey is wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I love and appreciate everybody. Be sure to subscribe. And if you are already subscribed, share this with somebody you think might get a positive impact from it. And so, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, until tomorrow, meditate or think about things that can have a positive impact. And while you're doing this, begin to notice and catch and stop the negative vocabulary that goes on in our mind and in our words that we speak out. It's like we learned today, ladies and gentlemen. All right, boom to knowledge. Thank you so much. And I'll see everybody next time.